My story starts out pretty cliche. I grew up in a Christian home with a really loving and supporting family, parents, and siblings. I gave my life to Christ when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I've known Christ ever since then. I always knew that He died for me on the cross. I always knew that He rescued me from my sins. When I was about 7 years old, I had an uncle, and his name was Kent. He was actually a graduate from Lock Haven University, and he studied special education, and he was also a musician. He had a really big impact on my life, both spiritually, emotionally, everything. And when I was about 7 years old, he actually was diagnosed with being bipolar. And he had gone through all of these moments of depression and absolute joy one minute, and it was really confusing for him. And when I was 7, I remember getting a phone call that he had committed suicide. And it was probably one of the most heart-wrenching moments of my entire life. But from that moment on, I realized that I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be enough for this world. I wanted to, spread the gospel. I wanted to pursue music. I wanted to help people with special needs. And he had a really big impact on my life. So ever since then, it was about being enough for this world. And from then on, I involved myself in youth groups. I involved myself in mission trips to other countries. Throughout high school, I became a worship leader for my church's youth group, which was awesome, and I got to be a leader in youth group after I graduated high school. And, everything was going on track. Everything was awesome. Once I came to Lock Haven, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue the things that Kent did. I wanted to involve myself in music. I got involved in Christian Student Fellowship and things at Avenue. Things were going really, really great for me. And I had the opportunity to be a counselor at Arrowhead Bible Camp this past summer, which was an incredible opportunity because it's a camp for adults with disabilities. And that's my passion. That's what I live for. I love it so much. And so I went into it just with the idea that I was going to serve God and I was going to serve people with disabilities. And going into the whole situation, I had such a positive outlook on it. I was going to be enough for this world. I was going to be serving. I was going to be putting my all into it. But unfortunately, when I got to camp, I met a boy and I got really distracted. And I made a lot of mistakes. And it's a lot of things that I can't take back. I compromised a lot of my time and my money and my emotions and my body and my heart. And ultimately, I really ruined my relationship with Christ in the process in a matter of just a couple of weeks over the summer. And I remember after all of that stuff happened, I ended up being very bitter and broken, and I was used and I was embarrassed. And it just was really, really hard for me. And I came back to school just really angry and bitter with God and not even really realizing my actions or what I had done. And I remember going back to a fall retreat at camp this past fall, and I got to talk to my camp manager about everything that had happened. And when he talked to me, I had never had someone tell me before that I had disappointed God and that I had embarrassed God and that He was completely angry with me. But also in that moment, I had never had someone tell me that I was still loved and cherished and that I was forgiven. And in that moment, I really think that I experienced my awakening or my aha moment. And I went down in that moment, and I was bawling. There were tears everywhere. There was snot coming out everywhere. And I went down to the dock at camp, and I just spent hours crying out to God and singing to Him and worshiping Him and asking for forgiveness. And I remember it was kind of like a movie moment. There was just kind of this breeze, and it was cold, and I just heard God whisper to me. He said, "Leah, you are enough for me." And right there, that was validation, and that was all I really needed to know, is that I didn't have to be enough for anyone else. I didn't have to be enough for this boy that had used me and embarrassed me. I didn't have to be enough for anyone else in this world. I just needed to be enough for God. And I started thinking of this verse in Romans that basically says that even in our darkest days, even in our sin and in our wickedness, God still loves us and is reaching for us, and He's just waiting for us to reach back.